All right. So I guess first of all, for the viewers, what's your name?
My name is Daniel Martin-McCormick. I perform as relaxer, and I also play in the band Black Eyes.
Okay. For the Wakefield students, I'm Tiago. I play in a few bands, and yeah. All
Great.
right.
Wait, is
Um,
this like a video interview, or will this be transcribed for text?
I think I'm going to try and have the video up, but also have it transcribed for the website.
Okay. I mean, if you want to do a cleaner video, I could be home in about 5 minutes and have a little more of a controlled setting. Yeah, it's up to you, I guess. It depends on how you want it to be. I'm sorry, I didn't really plan for like a video feed as well,
Mhm.
but I'm open to that if you want to. Yeah.
I'm fine either way.
Okay. Um, well, let's just, yeah, we can just jump in. Let's just get
Okay.
going. Yeah,
All right. I didn't really plan the questions out too heavily, but hopefully whatever tangents we go on uh
sure.
will be interesting. So, first of all, like you were raised in DC, right?
Yes.
And like you're now in New
Yeah, I was
York.
raised in Northwest. Yeah.
So I guess across your career, how have moves to different cities like San Francisco, like I guess affected you artistically? And how is like restarting socially, how has that impacted you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, when I was growing up in DC, um, the entry into a musical community was very easy. There's an all ages structure to shows, and I started going to shows when I was 14 years old. And pretty quickly, as soon as I found local artists, people who weren't touring, who were playing smaller shows, um, that were primarily for like the scene, I met people, and I think that being young and excited, and creative, people were charmed by that. They saw a young, precocious kid, and I felt very welcomed to participate and to start playing and performing and collaborating. And in that sense, I feel very, very lucky. I met some people who I still play with to this day, the people in Black Eyes, and some artists, like the people in Q and Not You, who at that
Mhm.
point were just kind of getting going as a band. And I'm still in touch with those people today. Um,
Yeah, I love that band.
yeah, and I just learned so much about how to, sorry, a little interference there. I learned a lot about being an artist and what performance was, and how to collaborate, and how to how to set up your gear, and pick a guitar, I don't know, just hold a microphone and book a show. And um it's a crazy amount of osmosis that you're taking in when you're just throwing yourself into something like that. And so by the time Black Eyes had formed in 2001, I felt very, very comfortable and at home in the music scene. And that gave me a lot of courage personally. And then the collaborators were people I'd been playing with and knowing them for a few years. Um, and just meeting people through that, it was a small scene, but a healthy scene. So everybody kind of knew everybody. It was like kind of the perfect size where there was, I don't know, maybe felt like maybe there was like 80 people who were really, really in it,
Yeah.
and you'd kind of meet them all, and you'd interact with them all, and you'd see their bands play, and that was great. When I moved to California, I moved there in 2005. because I wanted a bit of adventure and something different. It was at a point when a lot of people started moving out of DC, and I think that was tough for the people who stayed. And I think that it's like when you speak with people about it, it was a contentious time. But I participated in this sort of substantial exodus, and when I got to San Francisco, it was very challenging. I really didn't realize how much support and how many resources and how much community I had in Washington until I left. I just had pretty much taken it for granted. I was 21, and so it was kind of the first time experiencing something like that. Um, and it took me a while to find community. It really opened up when I met my friend Damon Palermo, and he and I started a band called Miami, and we were both like looking for something. And I think we found it in each other in our collaboration, and I think we also found a lot of strength in the friendship and having a band and having something that we could devote ourselves to that felt we were really excited about it, and we were excited to share it, and we were passionate about playing, and that helped us kind of reach out and find more people. I was personally, before that, really struggling, kind of cracking the nut of getting into a new scene where I wasn't so known. I just had really been known to people through growing up in DC. And so over a few years, we went pretty hard in that band. We toured a lot, we played a lot, we worked a lot, and accomplished a lot. I was very proud of it. And at a certain point, my girlfriend at the time was moving to New York, and I once again wanted an adventure. Um, San Francisco was also like kind of a small scene and also a healthy scene. Um, but it felt also kind of like, once again, people were kind of moving out to New York or LA just to try their hand at the big city. And I thought, okay, I'll do this. I'll do the same. Coming here, it's a really different dynamic. There's just so much going on.
Hmm.
Um, but I did have a bunch of friends who were already here, and so that gave me a more comfortable foothold, and I've really enjoyed living here. And I think that the sort of blessing and the curse of a city like New York, or maybe just of New York in specific, is that it is so big. There's kind of no ceiling for what you could accomplish in theory, and it's so wide culturally that there's room for every tiny little subculture that you might want. There's
Yeah.
multiple vaporwave scenes or whatever, and hyper pop scenes and punk scenes and hardcore scenes and post punk scenes and noise scenes and ambient scenes and modern dance scenes and movement arts scenes and so there's just a lot that you can um, participate in more than any one person ever could really like take on.
Hmm.
And so if you want to do something, um, there's a place for it to happen here and to grow. And that's been really great in terms of like developing things like the music festival I work on, Dripping, which is something that really couldn't happen outside of New York, I think. I'm gonna turn my phone here.
Yeah.
All right, I'm inside.
All right.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I mean yeah, right now I'm in Arlington, so
Hmm.
I'm not in Washington DC proper, but I'm sort of seeing a bit of a scene form, at least at this one alternative school, HB Woodlawn,
Mm,
because they have like a history, like Minor Threat played a show there once.
yeah.
And so now they've built up like a twice yearly festival thing where the students are encouraged to play in bands.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
And one of my bandmates goes to that school, so I'll be playing at their concert.
Which band is this?
Um, We've yet to really name ourselves. I think we might be called Sid's Lunch.
Uh-huh.
But
Well,
who knows?
great.
Um, but yeah, I guess on to the next one.
Cool.
This is a bit of a weird question, but I guess it has to do with bands breaking up in general. Like
Mm.
I guess like a legacy band like the Rolling Stones.
Hmm.
Do you think in general bands should break up? Um, just like to augment like the creative evolution of each of the members, or do you think they should just trudge along like a money-making touring machine? Because I feel like those are the two most common paths.
Well, perhaps I think that the that binary, I object in general to binaries. So I think that, I'll just speak from my own experience. When Black Eyes broke up, I had the feeling that I wanted to enhance my creative, I forget exactly how you said, horizons or whatever,
Yeah,
and
something.
that the group, we had done so much, and we were at some loggerheads internally, and time to move on. And um, I think that point of view was only accurate in that it diagnosed a few problems, but it didn't offer too many solutions. And I think I was rooted in the expectation that things had gone well for the band, and that they would go well, in the same way, at the same degree, that we'd have the same success in all future projects. It was sort of, I had a sense of entitlement, perhaps, or
Mhm.
great expectations, and that, what I regret about that decision and what's been very healing about playing together again, um, is that the decision to end the band, we might have ended it anyways. Who knows? Whatever. And it wasn't completely my decision, but my attitude wasn't informed with any sense of gratitude, appreciation, perspective, acknowledgement of what's special. So we had been very active for a few years. We've been active in bands before Black Eyes started with each other in different formations. We've been active for 2.5 years. We had toured relentlessly, and what I didn't say was this is special. My dream of music has come to fruition. My dream of being on Discord, fantasy of being on
Yeah.
Discord, has been granted me. I am in this group. We can do many things together. We have a special sound we make that's just ours. Um, and our hard work, has taken us to places that, are remarkable. I never thought those thoughts. Those thoughts didn't occur to me. All I thought about was the frustration and the critiques. So I think, if a band is at an impasse and really can't work it out, and they've achieved what they need to achieve creatively, perhaps disbanding, perhaps hiatus, whatever. But I don't think there's any honor in breaking up. I
Mhm.
used to think that, nothing was cooler than having, two great 7 inches and then fuck the world or something like that, because that suggested, like, almost a withholding. Like, you're so cool, you don't play this fucking game, whatever. But that's not a recipe for a real life in music. And the musicians I admire the most are the artists who grow and overcome, and you can't do that if you just blow everything up.
Yeah.
If you're always blowing it up and starting from zero, um, you can only get so far. And one of the really great challenges of being an artist is after you've hit liftoff. And so again, with a band like Black Eyes, we worked super hard and we got liftoff, and then it was kind of like, well, what do we do now? And I've experienced that with other projects where you work very, very hard, you get a certain momentum, and then you have a new challenge. You've gone farther than you expected to go, You've gone farther than you ever really considered, and now you have to navigate. You've kind of gotten out into open space, and if you get addicted to the liftoff, then you kind of doom yourself to a certain smallness. But there's great examples of groups, who were able to push through and find something past that first barnstorming, first adrenaline rush excitement of beginning,
Hmm.
and it's I think it's quite remarkable when groups can have a beginning, a middle, and then at a certain point it will end. And I think there are probably examples of groups where they're not as cool as they used to be, or they're not as vibrant as they used to be. um, but on the other hand, it's real easy to talk that shit and say like, oh, this or that other band, they're just cashing in or whatever. And I'm like, well, um, you know, maybe they like playing that music together, and
Yeah,
maybe people like hearing it. It doesn't really hurt anyone, for people to continue to play together. And I think that, like, being overly dogmatic or overly prescriptive about what people are doing with their own music that they've written is a bit like hollow. And
Mhm.
it's kind of an easy armchair diss that usually speaks to someone's you know closed mindedness, and I'd say also like lack of experience, because I don't hear those critiques from people who are out there doing it. I mostly hear them from people who are at home
Yeah.
talking shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's still bands that I really like that are still going on.
Yeah.
Like Pearl Jam, for example. Their new
Mm.
stuff isn't uh the greatest, but I can still appreciate their older stuff.
It's, I mean, I agree. Like, there's artists, some of my favorite artists, they put out a new record, and I might check it out, and it might be cool, but it doesn't have that same resonance for
Hmm.
me that, their record from 1997 did, or whatever it
Yeah.
is. That's just where I'm at as an audience member. I'm on both sides of the table. I've been making art for 25 years, and I'm grateful that anybody has paid attention to any of it. And for some people, they really like some of it, and they're not required to care about what I'm working on today. I can't demand that of them, and I can't expect that of them. And I hope that just the stuff I'm working on today finds resonance with some people. And
Mhm.
you know, if yeah, it's a
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, and I also think just coming to this conclusion that maybe some people might feel entitled to have like good music come from certain artists as if it's like their right to get the good music constantly from the same people.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, yeah, and I think going back to bands breaking up, I would just say, like, if you know what I try to practice now is, like, you can always break up, right?
Hmm.
You can always end it. That is a given, and that's your right. But I would suggest, if anybody was asking my advice, that before you break up, um, pause
Hmm.
and see if there's other solutions. If the dynamic is too toxic, too fraught, if there's too much frustration, if you hate the music, fine, walk away, whatever. You can do that, and that's fair. But if there's something there that's worth preserving, just have a look, and see. When Black Eyes broke up, we had toured. We played 120 shows in 2003. So that's a show for every 3 days, and we toured from late August through mid December with functionally like no break. We came back and we recorded Cough, and then a little bit later we broke up. And I think, it didn't really occur to me at that point that that we might be exhausted,
Hmm.
and we might need to pause and maybe take 2 months off, not do too much, absorb some new ideas, try a few things, hang out with our partners, cook, whatever. We had just been doing it so hard that
Yeah.
the idea of shifting any energy around, it just was alien to us, and it seemed like it had to be all or nothing. And if I could go back and talk to myself, then I would just say, go relax a bit. Like pause, like go to hang out in a jacuzzi or something for a second. you know
Hence
uh
the name Relaxer.
just take a minute to unwind from the huge push you just did, and then see if you'd want to come back in and see what surfaces. So anyways, yeah.
All right. Let's see what else I have here. Oh yeah. Speaking of Relaxer and your electronic stuff,
Mhm.
do you ever plan to add vocals to that? I mean, I'm not opposed to completely instrumental stuff. Just
No, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I've done some vocals for the more kind of ambient experimental work under Relaxer alias. There's two records. One's called In Softening Air, and the other one is called Force Field, A Guide for the Perplexed. And they both have kind of spoken word vocals. But um, I actually am working on a new project that is called Cry. It's a duo with the hardcore producer Kilborn, and we are playing our first show on Thursday, and we are both doing vocals in that. And it's more in the punk style, you might say. And I'm really excited about it, and it's been really fun working on vocals. With the heavy kick drums and stuff like that of techno. It's something that is I've just really like struggled to work in over the years, and I haven't wanted to force it, but this is like the first time that it's feeling um, natural, and I think
yeah,
and I'm excited to get those tracks recorded and like worked out and performed.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, I guess any plans for Black Guys in the near future? Like in
Yeah, I mean we're continuing to play, um, and we're writing, and so there'll be more info on that. We just did 3 shows off the East Coast, and we performed um, 6 new songs at those shows. I'm very happy with them, and we're playing elsewhere this year. We're playing in Denver at a festival there called Ghost Canyon, and then we'll have more shows later this year and early next year that we're going to announce soon. But Black Eyes is active. I mean, we are practicing, we're writing, we're playing shows when we are able to. So yeah, it,
yeah,
yeah.
from other interviews, I've gathered that you're all over the US, so it's kind of hard to be as active as you were in 2003.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of our members lives in Texas. He's moving back to DC this summer, and that'll get everyone at least on the East Coast. But there's 2 parents in the band, and everybody has more like real jobs that have real demands on their time. So it's something that we are able to work on, and you know, working on the band is very exciting, and we're very energized by it, and the practices are energetic, and the shows are energetic, and I feel like the commitment is there, but it's just a different world we're operating in. I really am grateful we had that time when we were younger, where everybody's job was pretty much bullshit, and so you could just leave it for 3 months to go tour. uh, and like I think like I wouldn't really trade that for anything. And now I'm just very happy we get to play together again, and our commitment to it is strong. I mean, we work on the music together. We work on it when we're apart. We talk every day. Um, so there's a constant energy around it, but it's just we can only end up doing about 6 or 8 shows a year, just because of our lives.
You mentioned the 6 new songs. If you do end up, I mean, you probably will record them at some point or another, but if you do end up recording them, do you think working with Don and Ian again is a possibility?
Yeah. Well, Don is not. Don Zientara is
Yeah.
not he doesn't have the same space that he did when we were tracking. So his current studio is, as you know,
In my
right close by.
neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've never seen it, but I've heard it's quite small, and our
Yeah.
our setup is quite large. There's been, you know, sort of jokes about like, oh, we should go in there and record just as an exercise in like, I don't want to say perversity. It's very apparently it's a very small room. Don
Yeah.
is an incredible engineer. I will say working with Don was one of the Don and Ian as a team is one of the great pleasures of my life. I mean, they have a amazing dynamic that is so deep, and um, Don's approach, his ear, his thoughtfulness, his like calm demeanor, and his extremely non-judgmental approach. Like he's very open to whatever you're doing, and he will not produce your session. it's
Mhm.
it's incredible. You'll say like, well, what did you think about that? He said, well, what do you think about that? And he really puts it
Yeah.
back in your court. And that I think is part of the reason why he and Ian struck such a bond when they were first met, was because Teen Idols and those guys, early Discord bands, were looking to record, and it was a pretty hostile environment. A lot of studios had attitudes about um, how you were supposed to record, how you were supposed to sound, professionals and blah blah, and they have these horrible stories of being laughed at by the
Mhm.
engineer and stuff like that. And Don is 100% committed to bringing your vision to life, and the only thing that's going to be a problem is if you don't know what your vision is, and then
Yeah.
that'll show. But yeah, I loved working with them. It was so special, and a real pleasure, real honor, and a real joy.
Yeah. Speaking from just being in that live room in his basement, I do think like at least one of you, maybe Hugh, would need to step outside and because
So
yeah,
yeah.
it's a really small room.
But he's gotten amazing sounding recordings in that room. I mean, Black Dots by Bad Brains, I think Minor Threat, like those records sound incredible. And they sound like very, very clear and impactful capture of these like amazing bands. It was great. Yeah.
All right. Let me see what else I have. Um, oh, this is a funny one. Uh, do you have what's your favorite restaurant in the DC area? Or
Well, there's a couple. My one of my favorites closed. New Orleans Cafe on 18th Street was a favorite for many years. They had great beignets and New Orleans food. But I'm a big Vache's fan on Connecticut, the pizza slice spot right by the was it Avalon Theater? Is that the one on Cleveland Park?
uh,
Um,
maybe.
yeah, it's right by the Cleveland Park subway, and Vache's is amazing. Rep it for life. I don't have a single favorite Ethiopian spot. The Ethiopian food in DC is very special, and
Yeah.
there's actually a place when we practice at Hugh's house. He lives in Silver Spring, so we eat dinner nearby. And there's a place that is Indian and Ethiopian, not really fusion, just both, and both are really good. And the Ethiopian in particular is quite strong. That's not my pick as like the best one, but there's it's always like a great treat to get some of that Ethiopian food. Oh my God. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ethiopian food is great. There's one on Columbia Pike in Arlington.
Mhm.
It's super fun. Okay, it seems like Zoom's given us 9 minutes left, so
Cool.
I guess with the last two questions, do you have any funny or odd toy stories from any of your projects? And after that, what's a book that you're reading or would recommend?
There are many funny touring stories. I'm trying to think of one that would be you know useful to people.
A fable, if you will.
Well, you know, I mean, I think that I will say like the best way to tour is with good communication and a bit of humility. You're dealing with a lot of moving parts, and you got to have your head together. There's been some times where I've been living a little more chaotically and had disputes or arguments with the booker because we were quite late to the show or this and that. And I think like also just um, going into places where you're not really like prepared for the environment. Like I was totally just not paying attention when I toured China, and I drank some tap water that really messed me up, and later found out that it was being partially sourced from a river nearby that had a problem with um, people dumping infected pig carcasses in the river. It's like a mess. So I mean, I think like just showing up with your head on straight and being ready to like not act a fool and deal with people in a calm and respectful way is going to be the best result. Like I've tried it both ways, and yeah, just there's too many individual stories to tell, but I'll leave it at that. I mean, a book right now I'm reading a new translation of The Castle by Franz Kafka, which is a book that I've never finished, and he never finished writing it, and I've never finished reading it. But I'm working on it now, and it's very very strange, very dreamlike, and kind of confusing but fascinating. Um, and I would recommend it. It takes a bit of patience, but it's also kind of hypnotic and eh, yeah. So I'd recommend that. I'm also reading this publisher called Blank Forms did a compendium of this free jazz zine that Amiri Baraka and Milford Graves and some other people worked on in the 60s and early 70s called The Cricket. And that's some of my favorite music is early free jazz. I mean, free jazz from any era, but the sort of foundational stuff is music that was so powerful and so committed. And hearing people talk about it in real time, these documents of people's ideas and political philosophies and artistic philosophies, um, and their attitude towards releasing their music and labels and the economics of it and all this kind of stuff. Really powerful. So if you can get your hands on a copy of the Cricket anthology put out by Blank Forms, I'd also really recommend that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for so much for doing this interview. Um,
cool. Thanks for having me. Sorry I had to start on the train. Apologies for that.
it's a change of scenery.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. Well, maybe I'll see you in some of the DC shows in the future or whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to try and start volunteering at Rhizome soon. So
Oh, great.
yeah.
Fantastic. Beautiful. Good luck with that.
All
All
right.
right. Talk soon.
Good
Bye.
day.